integrity. People won't believe that all the things you've accomplished.
And I think we don't always acknowledge how human beings, survived and evolved by having an instinct to hunt.
All right. Name, call sign, and affiliation.
My name is Ian Clockadile. My call sign is Clock, and I'm affiliated with Team Opfor.
Where did your call sign come from?
My call sign came from my last name, a gentleman by the name of Rogue, back in 2008-9 when he originally started the field with Savage. Found out my last name was Clockadile. He shortened it to Clocky, and then it meant to clock.
Perfect. I figured it was from Clock. Yeah. Where are you from originally, and where do you reside now?
I was born and raised in Biddeford, Alfred area. I split my time between Aroostook County, where my family grew up, and I currently reside in Shapley.
How long were you in Aroostook for?
Not very long. I split my summers there every year. So my grandparents are all up there, so I'd go spend the time with both sets of grandparents during the summer, and then I come back here for the school year.
And how do you like Aroostook County?
It's a different way of life, especially now. Prior to everything, brick and mortar shutting down, it was a very up and lifestyle with farming and whatnot. Now it's just very quiet. But if you want to go up there for some serene, nice views and quiet, you can get quiet.
I think I might move up there at some point.
You can get a lot of acreage.
Yeah, that's what I hear. That's what I hear. A lot of airsoft acreage. What makes you stay in New England?
I have been to every state on the eastern seaboard and a few out west, and there's something to be said about what we can have in our area. You can be at the ocean or in the mountains in a matter of hours. You can go to Boston. Plus, we don't have hurricanes and tornadoes and many wildfires, so it's just, I love the area and what we have, and there's something to be said for our nature and what we have.
Couldn't agree more with that. Everything you said was right. What do you do for a living?
What do I do for a living? I'm a machine operator for a company named Advanced Building Products. Shameless plug. We do soundproofing material, siding, rain screen siding, fun stuff. I basically take plastic, melt it down, put it into fabric, and make stuff out of it.
How long have you been there?
I've been there for a decade.
All right. You like it?
It pays the bills.
Right.
I love my coworkers.
All right.
My bosses have been nothing short of spectacular, especially the past couple months getting me a house. So they have top notch.
That's awesome. I can relate to that. How'd you get into airsoft?
I got into airsoft like everybody, including yourselves, backyard. My first experience playing airsoft, I wore a red t-shirt, which is a big no-no. And you can guess how that went. We played out in the back of a friend's house in Wells in a sand pit, and it hurt a lot. And then that made me go buy a VSR 10 back in the day, and I wanted to return the pain, only to have somebody buy a bigger and better gun, and I still didn't get it. So buying the biggest gadget does not always win the fight.
All right. Fair enough. How long have you been playing?
I have been playing seriously since about 2009, 2010. I joined Harrisfield about a year and change after Bruce and the guys started it.
Oh, no shit. That's been a while then.
It's been a while.
All right. Have you been on any other teams other than Opfor?
Oh, boy, yes.
Okay, all right.
Oh,
Let's
boy.
hear it.
So I started out a lone wolf like a lot of kids do. At that point, I was 18, 19 years old and didn't really have any wherewithal of what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be with. So I took my bolt-action sniper that I still had, which shot a lot less good than what it did out of the box, and made a couple of friends and a buddy by the name of RJ. Shout out to old Ghost Team. He took me under his wing, and they asked me to be part of their team. So I had my black skateboard helmet, and we all wore, black apparel, looked cool. Eventually, I started to want a little bit of more competitive nature and be part of a bigger group that was more geared towards winning. I'm not going to beat around the bush on that. And then Savage, who is actually the founder of Harris at the time, he had headed the team Wolfpack. Him and Corey, his call sign was Zombie, if I remember. Rabbit, all of them, Hutch even. They all kind of took me under their wing, and that's where it started with the whole loaning equipment and whatnot. And when you start to get into a group of guys like that, are like, yeah, try this out for a day, try that out for a day, let me know what you like, you're welcome to borrow anything. Having a group that fosters taking care of the younger people is just substantially amazing. So I got involved with Wolfpack for a number of years, and that team grew and grew and grew. And they were opposite of Opfor at the time. And then as things do, we all aged. Some of the people aged out of the sport or hobby and went their separate ways. And we eventually dwindled down to a few. Most of the original supporting cast were out of the sport. And then at that time, I was kind of looking for something different as well. So as I matured in my journey, I left the team and I played by myself for a bit. My other buddy, Jared, not this Jared, we formed a little team called Task Force 207 because we wanted to be cute. So we ran duos for a couple of years, and I dabbled with a bunch of people at that time, and then I tried to unceremoniously buy my way onto Opfor, which I did. I bought patches. I basically looked at Bruce and said, I want to be on the team. What if I bought you patches? So I did, and lo and behold, they came back awful. So we call that the B-team patch that we give out to somebody, and we're like, when you want to be on the team, we'll give you the real patch. So probably about 2021, I joined Opfor, and at that point in time, there was only about like 4 or 5 of us, so we were pretty small. Most of the guys on Opfor at that time were people that had been playing there for a decade, and we were the management, and we just grew into a close-knit group, and that's where I reside now.
Fucking right. See, I just learned so much, not only about you, but about the happenings of Harris and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just one question, man. That's all it took. Okay, you already actually answered how do you got involved with the team?
Yeah. I mean, there's several answers I can go for that one.
Do I answer it anyway?
Sure. I mean, so how I got involved with Opfor, it's... A lot of people make the joke, and I'm not going to beat around the bush. I mean, we get called Mod Squad a lot, and the sad and unfortunate part about it is that because we were some of the founding people of Harris Field, so Omar being escalated himself to the top of Wolfpack, so he was doing that, and Bruce being one of the founding members, I think he was the founding member of Opfor next to a gentleman by the name of Steve. Miss you, buddy. Come back. They got together and they took the rights off the field from Savage and they took over. So unfortunately, we just dwindled down to a few members on Wolfpack, a few members on Opfor, and over the years, we were what's left for the past decade. So we've fought with and against each other on and off the field for the better part of a decade. And that's how we've gotten so close, and that's ironically why we're, the moderators and managers, because we're what's left over a decade, and we know the field inside and out, and we just happen to be on the same team. I mean, Chuck, when you talk with Chuck Somerville, he was a founding dude on Wolfpack. He was actually part of the original batch of the Wolfpack boys. You can find some beardless photos of him. They're hilarious. Same thing with Irish. Irish was with Wolfpack eons ago. I mean, we all came from either Wolfpack or Opfor. I think Bruce is the only one that's been diehard, set straight where he is. So, yeah, and eventually we just formed bonds outside of the sport. We all shoot real steel, went to competitions in Berwick, hang out at each other's places, and eventually we all just ended up on the same group and, running the field together. So,
perfect. Do you help to organize games at Harris?
I forgot to bring the patch. Very seldom do I organize events at the field. Every now and then I have a little brain splurge, and I'm like, I want to do something and write a game. I wrote the game Clue, which I think we ran last year. Bruce ran it for me, actually, last year. A little adaptation off of the board game. I think it's fun. We need to tweak some things. Every year we kind of learn some little new things that we need to tweak on it. Omar probably has the dates on it. I think back in 2013 13 or 14. We actually had patches made up for it. I ran an event called Operation One Republic. It was basically the second coming of the Civil War. I think I had Chuck run a faction, and then Bruce and Steve on the other faction, so it was Opfor versus Wolfpack, and that was one of the first events where we had a substantial out-of-state presence, and I think that's when we started getting on the map as a field. I don't want to say my event brought people to the field, but I think that's one of the ones where we tried to put media out, per se, on the social media forums. At that point, Niseg had a big forum like Maine Airsoft did, and that's where we were just like, come to our field, and come try us out. And at that point, we didn't have any structures or anything, but people still loved the field and what we had to offer. So I think my time as a writer and organizing games has come to a close, but I definitely like being behind the scenes and orchestrating what needs to be done and who needs to be where.
I was going to say, you do help run the games though, right?
Yes, where I'm needed when Omar wants me to do things. Like, as I said, I'm probably one of the more, if not the most vocal guy on the management staff. So I try and help Omar delegate who needs to do what duties. Like, I will, for Chuck, for instance, great guy for safety, chronoing, usually have him run that. Try and find a couple parking lot guys so we can make parking smoother for larger events. Clawhammer, we had an issue last year, so we're going to address that for next year. Check-ins, like we all have our individual tasks, so I kind of try and help Omar delegate, because Omar has so much on his plate that he doesn't have the ability to micromanage everybody. So I think that's where I fit in with the organizational aspect of running the events at the field.
Right. Is that something you just like fell into because it needed to happen, or was that a genuine interest, like, and you asked for it?
No, I don't think any one of us ever asked for anything. Ironically, we butt heads quite a bit, and I think over the years we've started to learn each other's strengths and weaknesses. Naturally, I always kind of find myself in a role where I like to be leading, not that I like leading, but I have a loud voice and I can be heard. I mean, that goes back to high school, JROTC, stuff like that. I just naturally found myself in leadership positions if I wanted to or not. And over the years, I think we've all developed a marriage of a relationship where we respect and understand what everybody's strong and weak at, and we kind of just work around that. And we know that the field would not be where it is without Omar and Bruce. Bruce doesn't get enough credit because both of them, they took the financial burden of the field under their umbrella, and then we just kind of fill in the voids of where they need help.
All right.
So.
All right. Do you get paid for the work you do at Harris?
Nope. We everything, every dollar that comes into the field goes back into the field. That was one thing early on, back when Omar and Bruce initially took over the field, was we wanted to maintain the cheapest field fee around, because at the time most fields were between $15 and $30 to come and play for the day, excluding everything else. And at that time we stayed at $10. I don't think we raised our field fee until 2021 or 2022, and that was because of the fees from online pay. And that was one thing that we've always prided ourselves on, is we didn't want to have paid staff. We didn't want to have paid anybody, because we wanted every dollar to go back into making the field better and bigger, whether that be going towards the rentals, the pro shop, building new structures every year. I mean, over the past 5 years, our field has gone from the Mac to the Mac. I mean, we started out, our first structure, I think, was in 2013 or 14, and it was a little 8x8, and it was the focal point on the field. Everybody loved it, and we're like, let's just play here. And it's just like, this is a little 8x8 building. We have 55 acres, but since not having to pay anybody, we've been able to build upon that every year, and it's just gotten to where it is, and hopefully even bigger.
Now, as far as, you know, helping to run games, you also help to maintain the field throughout the year, or before the season. Do you get paid for that?
Nope. So Omar does typically. I think we've decided as a staff, usually when you help out the field, we tend to give you a game pass for the day. And Omar usually delegates that and deals with that. We as staff don't do that. We just facilitate the ability to come out on days and help have people come out. Me personally, over the years, as I've gotten older, I've had less time to devote to building the field. So fortunately, we have a young upbringing. The war fighters, Dusty's done an amazing job building stuff at Harris and Coles. Just to name a few. Sorry if I'm leaving everybody out. But a lot of younger people with a lot more energy, talents, and desires and aspirations to build at the field have come out in the past few years, and typically they're the ones that are helping to clean up, set up, and usually myself, Bruce, Zach, and the rest of the guys that are on the management staff, we're typically now setting up the pro shop and getting that set up for the field for the year, and then we're doing like the minor tasks or focusing on stuff like Echo that doesn't get enough love like it does because it's way out on the other end of the field. So in years past, no, I haven't really been helping with setup and teardown as much, but I know that Omar knows that my strengths are elsewhere. So
Okay. All right. Let's see. This is one of my favorite questions, only because Omar's answer was fantastic.
Really?
It was great. How much of your personal time do you put into planning and playing Airsoft?
too much. I would say over the years past, a lot less than I would like, because adulting is fun and we have kids for a reason to make this go on. I devote at least 3 weekends a month now to the sport. At least a couple times a month we'll have what we call a tech night with the boys, and we'll get together at Bruce's house typically and do tech stuff. Usually it's just bantering about how much we hate teching. Yeah, because in Bruce's words, not mine, air shit sucks. Once you get to the point of being a tech, the simple stuff is not the simple stuff, it's the stupid stuff that annoys you. So a lot less time than I'd like to devote. It's a hobby that I started out of high school because at that point in time I didn't have an extracurricular activity. I didn't have a big circle of friends, so I was looking for something to do. And at that time in my life, I would say I devoted a lot of time to the sport. And over the years, as I've gotten older, it's gotten a little bit lower, but I still try and be out there. You know, I try and be out there the first person of the day every Saturday to help Omar set up the shack. And I might not be able to stay afterwards, but a lot less time than I'd like, but still enough.
How much do you think about it?
A lot.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. I mean, how much of your waking hours are thought about some aspect?
Ironically, a lot. Once I hit off-season mode, all I can think about is, man, I wish I had a gun to rip open. No, I'm not ripping your gun open. I love tinkering. I love teching. It's something that when you build something yourself and it works as much as you'd hoped and dreamed it would afterwards, you're just like, damn, I made this. And that's something when October, November hits, I'm just like, okay, well, I can't play anymore, so I might as well build something. But then when I hit this time of the year, January, February, I'm like, man, we're a month away from getting ready to gear up and open up and get back out there. So I would say year round, because this is my hobby. It's just, I think about it year round. It's shooting people in the woods with plastic BBs, but it's fun.
Couldn't agree more. What is your favorite platform and why?
Get me giddy. My favorite platform is my SEMA AR-10 or SEMA SR-25. I didn't start using it until a year or two ago. I dabbled with large platform 308 style airsoft guns a couple years ago, but SEMA really knocked it out of the park in the last year when they released their platinum line SR-25s. Nerd science, a lot more air volume, bigger BB, reason why people give me hate. That thing just slings BBs downrange. But my heart and soul is in my M4. That thing has gone years and years through. That's the same combat machine I have had for 8-10 years now. It doesn't look like a combat machine anymore, but the body's still there. That thing has gone so many different iterations, gearbox changes, and it just continues to be in my arsenal, which grew to this lovely wall and then down to a lonely 3. So as I've gotten older, I realized that I just need to shrink it because it's like, man, I want that, I want this, I want the other thing, and then I'm like, do I need it? I'll only play with it once. But I've never let go of my M4. It's my baby.
All right, fair enough. What is your favorite piece of kit and why?
The most important piece of kit is... different question?
What is your favorite piece of kit?
My favorite piece of kit. That's a tough one. I love my Spiritus rig. I don't know if you want me to show it.
Hey, go ahead, you can.
So, Spiritus is amazing. I always have the mantra, buy once, cry once, not to be confused with the brand Cry. But their rigs are just so adaptable to every need that you could want. Over the years, I've bought Amazon knockoffs, and they most certainly do work. I don't recommend that if you're a first-time person going out and buying the most expensive thing first off, because you will hate it. And don't sell kit that you have bought, because you could loan it or come back to it. Because the most annoying thing is when you buy something and then you're like, man, I really wish I held on to that. So I've started out probably 5 years ago with a knockoff Amazon Spiritus kit, and grew it, adapted it, changed it to what I needed to, and then eventually I went out and purchased a Spiritus kit, and that is my go-to rig every weekend. I like chest rigs because we play out in the woods, and plate carriers are cool and all until it's a 98-degree day and you're hunkered down in the hottest piece of crap that you could buy off of the interwebs, as I have mine behind me. But each serves its purpose, and I love plate carriers. I'm not knocking on them. I do run my plate carrier a couple times a year. It's just not something that's well adapted to out in the woods. So I would say my favorite kit is a chest rig.
All right. And what's your most important piece of kit that you own and why?
Most important piece of kit is a radio. A lot of people think it's their firearm or their replica, pardon me. Your radio, you will live and die by a radio. You will live and die by communication with your team. You can have all the coolest gadgets, best rifle, best bag, best kit, look the best on the field, but if you don't have the ability to communicate with your buddy that's 100 feet away in a quiet manner so that you can maneuver on somebody, you're going to lose a fight 9 times out of 10. So buy a radio, learn how to use it.
Which do you prefer more, AEGs or HPAs?
So I love AEGs. I started out with them. I hated them because I didn't understand how to work on them. And then there's this lovely thing called YouTube and the interwebs and forums, and eventually I sunk enough time and energy into learning how to work on them. But I did go to HPA. I think I was the second or third person at Harris to actually have one of the original Polar Star PR-15s. I think mine was serial number 65, if I remember. And we were kind of the spearhead of that in the region, actually, because one of Gordon's events, I think it was Autumn Justice 4 or Spring Offensive 5, Polar Star hadn't even made it to the region at that point, and Gordon had to adapt a whole new rule set to HPA for his events. We went under extra stringent chronoing process because, I mean, HPA was a new revolutionary idea to the sport. And fortunately, it's kicked off to where it is now, and it's just, yeah, you see an HPA, and you're like, yeah, I'm glad you have it. I got away from it mainly because I didn't like dealing with all the extracurriculars of dealing with hydroing tanks, upkeep, the line in particular, and I'm back to AEGs.
All right. Yeah, that's something that always keeps me away from it's the line and just all the extra bullshit.
I think his name is I think Forrest. Forrest has one with the tank on it, with the tank stock.
You've seen those.
The drawback to those, if you're like me and you shoot more than 1,000 rounds in a day, those tanks, I think it's a 13 cubic inch by 3,000 pound tank, they're tiny. So I think you can get between 600 and 700 shots, maybe 900, depending how you have the system tuned. So they make stock covers for them and everything, so it doesn't even look like you have a stock, but it screws right into your buffer tube. That's a way to get around the tank and the line, but you're limited by air capacity at that point. So I mean, everybody's come up with every single imaginative way to adapt HPA to make it more milsome and better. But the most efficient and best setup still is a tank and a line.
What are some of your favorite brands of airsoft and why?
I am a pushover for G&G, and people hate me for that. G&G and G&P, which is harder to come by. G&P was kind of I would say it's the VFC, the Crytac, the name brands that you see today, but that was G&P like 10 years ago. They had the best trades, the best builds. They're a little bit harder to come by now. I think they just make a lot of like exterior stuff now, but they're still hard to come by because you got to ship them from overseas. But my favorite brand is still G&G because of how less proprietary they are than most brands like Crytac and drawing a blank on some other ones. But you can just do a lot with the bodies, and you can do a lot with the receivers and the components and the insides. And like I said, that combat machine is, I think I bought that when that was $110, and now they're probably like $200 for the same chunk of plastic. They're just so easy to work with, and they're cheap. I don't like telling people to go out and buy a $400 gun when you can go buy a $125 gun and have just as much fun.
What is your favorite aspect of airsoft?
Teamwork. There's nothing better about this sport than learning how to be a battle bro or battle sis with somebody. Over the years playing this sport, when you lose a lot and that gives you that driving competition inside to want to be better, you realize that it's more about the group instead of the individual. Much like football, the ballet of calling with a bunch of guys and moving with a bunch of people to obtain a goal or task and to accomplish the broader picture of what you want to do. Teamwork makes the dream work. Cheesy pun. No, I get a lot of flack for it just as a team because we seem to be a great bunch of guys and people look up to us, but it's really just because we've had a relationship for a decade, and that's not a lot of people in the field have that. A lot of people have only known each other for a season or two, where we've had the ability and great time to know each other for a decade now. I mean, it's a lot of time spent on and off the field to learn the strengths and weaknesses of what we all can do. And then when we play a game, we don't play the game with the goal and the mindset that we want to win the game. We just want to win the fight within the fight. The thing I like about playing is just I want to have the best fight possible even if I lose. And the only way I can do that is working with a battle buddy. And that's how we try and play, is to make sure that we always are in pairs. And then the pairs form the unit, and then we accomplish the goal. So
that's a good strategy. I agree completely with fighting for the fight that you're in rather than the overall goal. It's about the fight that you're fighting at that time. And I've found, talking to some guys that aren't on our team and on our team, that when you leave the field and you've had a really good engagement, it didn't matter if you won or lost. If the engagement was good, then you had a good day.
Remember the fight. Like, I can't remember games anymore because I got to break Bruce's leg or something, but to catch up to him, we've played, Omar has the numbers, like 300 and something games. Like, we've been in the field since 2008 or 9. Like, the games just, they all mesh together to me now. But I can remember specific engagements, and if I had a good engagement, win or lose, like I can pick a bunch with Jared or pick a bunch with Bruce. I remember almost every single one of those. If I did something wrong, I'm like, shoot, I wish I did this, or I wish I did that. And that's why I tell a lot of new players is, like, don't be afraid to run up and die. Like, it's not real life. It'll hurt, but you can get back into it and go back up and run up and die again. And the more you run up and die in those fights, you're like, shoot, I need a teammate first off. And then you learn to work with that teammate, and then you keep both running up and dying, and you're like, okay, so we know how to run up and die. Now can we run up and accomplish a task without dying? And you keep doing that to the point where you can run up and accomplish the overall picture of the mission. And hopefully that's winning the overall end game, like Pro League or what have you. But if you can accomplish as a team or a pair or even solo, like I had one event last year where I was solo and I tried to funnel it down into a couple small objectives, like this is what I want to accomplish for myself for the day, and if I can do one of those, then I'll call it a success. It's just, if you can just compound everything to ultimately finishing the task as a team, bueno.
Great advice. Great advice, especially keep trying and trying again. You're running up and taking your hits.
Yep.
At some point, you're not. You're going to clear
Yep.
your objective, and when you do, then you're going to get that confidence that you're going to do it again.
And that's 90% of the sport is just getting better as an individual and as a group.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that is a little disheartening to a lot of people when they see us as a group, and they see how that we run together, and it's just like I have to keep reminding them, we've known each other for a decade. That's a lot of experience, trust, friendship, memories. Like you just learn so much about each other over the course of a decade, where it's just like, I know what Jared's going to do, I know what Zach's going to do, I know what Bruce is going to do without even asking them, without communicating to them. And when you get to a level like that in a sport like this, where it's conquered by a lot of new people that have been there a season or two, of course you're going to dominate. And it's not that we try to, it's just that we don't have to think. We just do.
For 10 years.
We've been working here for 10 years. Right? It's like when somebody wants to push an objective, and it's just like, okay, I can tell you where you should push that, how you should push it, and when you should push it. And when you get people that just all walk out and you're like, that's not going to end well for you, then eventually, hopefully, they start to learn. Okay, yeah, maybe they were right. And I think that's one of the things where it is a learning process over your first couple seasons of, just run up and don't run back. I think that's one of the most difficult things when I tell new people. It's just like, don't come back to me. The objective's up there. Go play the objective, man. I'll be right behind you. I want you to push and learn. And then I will come up to you, get you back in the fight, and hopefully we'll win the fight. So and that's the overall goal, is to win the fight within the fight. That's just something that I always preach hard. It's like, don't focus on the end game. Focus on now. What is your smallest task possible to win this fight? Is it getting your teammate back up? Don't abandon your teammates. Is it moving to this objective to eliminate that threat whilst your teammate is pushing this objective? It's just a fight within a fight, and just mitigate your tasks to the smallest task possible. And over the years, when you're compounding that, you just get better to the point where you don't even have to think about it. Just the Tom Brady effect. I mean, the guy was just a defensive mastermind. By the end of his career, you could just look at it and be like, okay, I see what I see. I need to know what I need to do. And hopefully we can have a player base that gets to that point.
What is your least favorite aspect of Airsoft?
I think everybody's least favorite is cheating. Nothing ruins something more in a sport of honor than just shrugging everything. And it's not so much cheating, it's a mindset. I feel bad when people have to get into a mindset where they feel the need to do something that just diminishes the game as a whole. You gotta better yourself as a person, not for the hobby, but just life in general. We just have this kind of participation mindset within the sport where it's just like, okay, big gun, big expensive toy, I should be able to win this. And it's like, you're not going to win everything. Like, you get to the point where it's like, I want to come out here and I want to have fun with friends. And that's ultimately what it should be, is have fun with your friends. And if you win, you win. You lose, you lose. And when you lose, I hope you learn something. When you win, you also need to learn something and be humble. Like, I think humility and cheating are two ends of the spectrum where they need to be closer together, and you need to learn from both sides. It's kind of just a dichotomy of weirdness that eventually I hope everybody learns. I would say just cheating is just it's it puts a damper on everything.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? Also, I think it can put a damper on everything when you have someone that's policing other people too much.
Micromanagement, yeah.
Right. I mean, it's airsoft, and everybody knows you're not going to feel every hit. It's just not going to happen.
Oh, of course.
So just to, I think, I mean, obviously there's crap people out there, but to hopefully, start that off with hoping for the best, that the person just didn't feel it and just keep shooting them until they call it. Because it's going to happen. You have pieces of kit, you're just not going to feel it. You got to hear it. You really got to tune in your senses for it. And when someone just goes, hey, you didn't call that, blah, 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 and immediately, if someone really didn't know, they're saying, oh, you just called me a cheater. And, I just didn't know.
And it's like, I think that's 90% of the problem is just like people, again, going back to the earlier question, it's just like they're focused on the end game. They want to win. And who doesn't want to win? Winning feels great. Losing can feel just as great because you learn from it.
You do it honorably.
And when you learn from losing, you become better as a person in life. And I stand by that because it's just winning doesn't make you a good person. That's all you strive to do is I win, I got to keep winning. And it's like eventually you got to lose to understand what it's like to be at the other end of the spectrum. And we've tried to get to the point where it's just like, because we don't want to be seen as that powerhouse, the house team. I don't like being called Mod Squad. Just heads up, boys. It's just we pride ourselves on not trying to cheat. Like it's just like got to the point where you call a raindrop or an acorn. Hilarious example last year. Ruben's father negligently discharged into the ground, ricocheted off of Bruce's boot and hit me in the butt, and it actually hurt. And we both called it instantly, and he's like, that's not even possible. Like, I just shot his boot, and I was like, I don't know, man, I got hit in the butt, and it hurt, and he felt it too, so we both called it. It's just like, there's no shame in calling a hit. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to be right back in the game. It's like, and who knows, you might be in a better situation after it. So learning from losing is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, great point. What is your favorite type of airsoft player to see on the field?
The competitive young buck. I like somebody that wants to push themselves. You can have an established person on a field that wants to win everything. And then you can have an introvert that has that mindset, and then you can teach them how to want to win. Sometimes that's more difficult, but there's something to be said for somebody that just wants to better themselves on and off the field and push to try and win. I mean, who doesn't like winning? When you get spoiled, again, Tom Brady for 20 years, we like winning.
Right?
No, it's just when you have people that want to play the game, play the objectives in the game, that furthers the game for everybody as a whole. When you have everybody on the field striving to push for a bomb on the field, to play for that one bomb, you have the craziest firefights imaginable. But when you run into people that are just like, I don't want to do that, and it's like, okay, you kind of have lackluster firefights, and then you kind of have to go searching for it. So I like competitive young people that want to push and better themselves and then make me better in return, because there's nothing more fun in my mind than getting my butt kicked by some young guy with a rental. To this day. Sweatshirt, hoodie rental kids. I mean, because we try and get decent rentals, and they shoot close to field limit. There's nothing more humbling than being shot by a kid with a rental gun. And you're just like, damn, I really just did that. And it goes back to, okay, how do I better myself in this situation? Should I have pushed this way, or should I have pushed that way? Should I have called for help here? Now, it's nothing more humbling.
Yeah. You missed it. But that Pro League game, we squared off with you guys all fucking day.
I felt like we hit you every engagement, and I felt so bad.
No, we loved it. Like, yeah, I'm so sad you fucking missed it. But like, so it was Tony told us at the beginning of because we hadn't played a Pro League yet last season, and he's like, oh yeah, we added speakers to the nukes, and he's like, yeah, and I'm like, okay, that's fine,
The most obnoxious thing.
So we fucking haul ass from where do we start again?
I think you guys were somewhere near Alpha because
No,
I
no,
thought
where did we start initially?
Oh, the tent compound.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
We hauled ass towards pallets,
Yep.
right?
And we
I'm like,
ran.
okay, we can get here. We'll get our bearings, and we move a little bit, and I'm like, I hear a fucking nuke. And so one of our guys runs out and grabs it. We're like, and then it's like, rah, 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 rah. I was like, that's really fucking loud.
Yup.
This sucks. Okay, let's move. We're going to move towards Gully, and we're going to just keep going up that way and get objectives as we go along. And we move. We're halfway between pallets and Gully, and he finds another one.
Yup.
And I'm like, fuck. Okay, we got to stash these, but what the fuck are we going to do? It's the very beginning of the game. I'm like, there's no way we're keeping these.
Yep.
So we start moving back towards the other one, and that's when we run into you guys.
Yup. I remember that fight so
Dude,
well.
but we like, when we run into you, we know that, you guys know the field, you have the team dynamic that you do.
Yep.
We know it's either going to be a hard fight or, we're going to take the loss.
See, that's a firefight I remember.
But see, that was, to us, that's fucking awesome. We never go, well, fucking Opfor and their shit. We're like, yes, we held our own for a half an hour.
You went toe-to-toe with us.
And when you guys took all the fucking nukes to Echo, was it Echo?
Yep, we went to Echo.
And we were like, let's just go get the fucking nukes. Let's just keep going at fucking Echo. And we did for quite a while. And like the last 15 to 20 minutes, I think it was the last 10 minutes of the game, we're like, okay, we're not going to get them. That's okay. Let's just go to prison where whoever's there, because that was the last objective. But like, as you're saying, to have those... the
fight within the fight.
Dude, we had such a blast.
Mm-hmm.
We had I think you may have stripped the morale from the guys.
So yeah,
after that,
so
they're like, okay, can we
future
find something
tense.
else to do?
Future tense. So that last engagement where I brushed up against you guys outside of Delta, I want to say, I do remember one of your guys is just like, "Can we be done fighting you guys?" I remember him looking at me. And he's like, "Can we just do something else, please?" And I'm just like, I feel so bad.
It was Andy.
But no, like, the flashback to that Gully fight, you guys were so close to ending us. Because I remember I had myself and Bruce and Jared was up behind me on the left, so we're mirroring you guys. You guys were facing Pallet, we're facing Gully. And that's one of the things where we subconsciously have that buddy dynamic of fight in pairs, because one is none, two is one. If you find yourself by yourself, you're in the wrong and you have no ability to help the team as a whole to accomplish the objective. And at that point, Jared was up top with, I want to say, Ruben or Chuck and a couple of the other guys on that trail bend. And Bruce had noticed I pushed up on the field boundary on the slope, so he went up to support me, but I don't remember who it was. There was two of you. You guys just kept dropping me every time I'd get healed back up, because somebody would come in, heal me, and I'd just drop. And I think that's one of the greatest things you can learn in this hobby is patience.
Yeah.
You don't have to win the fight now.
Yep.
Wait for your window. Wait as long as possible. And sometimes it can feel like an eternity. But if you play the waiting game and you wait for that 1 second, and that's all we did, was we just tried to wait you guys out till you got a little greedy, popped your heads up, and just suppress at the right moments. And I think that's the only thing that won us that fight, because you had us down to one or two guys up top, and I don't remember who they were. I think it was either Chuck or Zach.
Samesies, man.
And the overall goal for that game is, like, we hate winning pro leagues, we hate trying to win pro leagues, but we're just like, we kept stumbling on bombs. And the one thing I love without the Stingers is, like, they're go try. They want to win, and they've won those games every time. And we can't compete with them, much to everybody's surprise. They push objectives, they take objectives, and it's like we have to play a different game around them in order to win something like that. And our objective was like, okay, you count the points at that point. It's like the bombs are worth X, and we know we need to cap one objective or whatever, and I think Echo was one of them. So once we got a stash of bombs, we had your two to start, and then we stole another one from somebody. The rest of them were ironically happenstance. We would just go out and we're like, oh, there's a bomb here, and then we'd just bring it back, consolidate, and we knew how to defend Echo, and we're like, nobody can take Echo if we hold this right. And I think, like, one of the last bombs, it was hilarious because all of Opfor stayed at Echo, and myself and Zach went out. Just kind of, I think we tried to cap a base, and they were like, "Wait, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5." It's like there's got to be another bomb. Ironically, out near Southbridge, you just hear the "Wah, wah, wah," and we're like, that couldn't have been more spectacularly timed. Grab it, let's go.
Yeah.
So, and even Tony at the end of that, he was just like, all right, they've got these bombs. He didn't know we had the last one, but even he was penny pinching at the end of that. Like,
yeah,
what
he
do we
was.
need to do to win this?
Yeah.
Because it's like, again, we don't play to win the end of the game. We're just like fight within the fight, and then we just happen to be in the running for it. And that was one of the things I loved about Pro League, that Pro League. It was just every fight we got into was with you guys, and it's just like by the end of it, I felt bad.
Good. It was no, dude, never feel bad. But like, if anything, that's just teaching us to be better players too, and what we need to do. Like,
and you went toe to toe with us.
yeah,
every
and
fight.
And we have footage from last year at Pro League or at Clawhammer, and I think it's the first time we really went up against you guys, if you recall that. And on video, you know, we get taken out, obviously, after a little bit, but then we're walking up. I think we held with you guys for like 25, 30 minutes or so, and then we're walking away, and we're like, dude, that was fucking Opfor. We held our own. We got all right. We held it for a bit, and that's important. Just as important as it would be to win that engagement, but holding it for a bit as newer players to the field. I mean, to go against the house team and hold your own for a bit, that feels good.
Oh, 100%.
You know, so the Clawhammer this year. Speaking of learning from our engagements together, right? So there was a whole bunch wrong with that. But at one point, we were tasked with just go towards gully. And then that's behind enemy lines. You guys had pushed all the way up to pallet, the Rebels had. And we're like, good, we get to break away and go do what we're good at. And we did. We made it right up to gully. We got in there, and we had an engagement for like 45 minutes or so. And towards the end of it, we're getting pretty close to bingo. We got reinforced by like 3 to 5 other players. The problem was everyone was just inside the fucking base.
Yep.
Right? And
worst mistake.
Hilarious. Hilarious to watch. I watched it many times. You guys just come in from, the sofa chair area, right? And just... like real quick.
Typically, it starts out with the saw.
It was hilarious, right? But I'm watching that, and I was like, if I had put Beef, our LMG gunner, up on the other side of that gully in that little teeny foxhole behind gully, when you guys came up,
would have had a base of fire.
Would have been really good.
Yep.
The following game at Fool's Road we did that, and it worked beautifully. But just saying, like, learning from watching the other guys play, the guys that have been there longer, it's crucial. There's no need to, huff and puff because you're getting soundly beaten. It learned.
And that's one of the glorious things about like engagements like that is you learn individual nooks and crannies of the field, and you're like, okay, this doesn't work coming from this direction. How can I approach this? And you start to learn, like, there are still places on our field that it's like, okay, I know I can't take that. It ain't happening. I'm not even going to try. And people are still like, nah, let's do it. And it's like, that's not going to accomplish the goal. Like, what is the goal that we need to do? And I think that's one thing as you progress as a person and a player at the field. It's like, all right, what's the goal I need to accomplish? And how do I best do that without losing resources? And that's how I break down the game now. It's like I want the fight within the fight, and it's like I say that time and time again. It's just like that's all I care about is the fight within the fight, and it's like a chessboard to me. It's like, okay, I want to take Mac. What's the best way to take Mac? It's growing every year. Has grown this off season. So now you learn new avenues of how to approach it, take it, and with what resources. And a saw is a great equalizer in that. It's like you can move mountains and men with a saw. If you don't have that, it changes the whole dynamic. And much can be said for other places on the field. And like, being there for a decade, you learn every nook and cranny, stump, stumble, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And when you have that close-knit group of guys that all have that same mentality and mantra, you just flow like water over an objective, and that's over years of losing.
Yeah,
like, that's the thing. It's like you don't learn and get to that point without losing, and I think that's a lot of where my history comes from, is why I looked up to Bruce and Steve and Chuck even. I wanted what they had on Opfor for so many years, and found out that they were more alike to me than I was with the guys I was with. Not that there was anything wrong with Opfor. They were just, it was a lot of older guys at that point. And I was a young buck, and Bruce and all them were about my age, and I was just like, saw how they moved. I'm like, man, I'm sick of getting my ass handed to me every week. But took that with a grain of salt, learned, pressed hard, tried to be friends with them, and that's honestly a lot of it. It's like, if you're simple-minded, level-headed, chill person, and you push hard, and you like to play the fight within the fight without winning the overall goal, that's all I care about. And I think eventually when, we all started realizing that, we all gelled together and became friends, and where we are now.
Nicely done, sir. What is your least favorite type of player to see on the airsoft field?
Oh,
So many to pick from.
there's so many things to pick from. I think much like a person in a workplace, it's just lazy. I like competitive play, and I'm not going to shy away from that. And there's something to be had for people that like live action role play, LARP style stuff. That's not who I am, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Like, you can have your LARP and play too. But when you're at a game that is specifically geared towards killing your opponent and winning the overall game, where there's no role play involved, play the game. If it's a LARP game, sure, give me my bottle caps, fool. Like, that's the thing. But I don't like people that are just there to be there. I want somebody that's there to enhance my experience as much as I'm there to enhance their experience. So, lazy, I guess.
What is something that you'd like to see more of in your local airsoft community?
Bigger, badder teams. I miss the rivalry and camaraderie. It's coming back. I think with the help of yourselves, Death Eaters, and the Stingers. At first we were apprehensive within. I know that we try not to put our opinions out there because we have to operate both as a group of players on a team and the management. And I think that we divert a lot of our thinking towards the management aspect, and we put ourselves behind a screen. We're like, nope, we're not Opfor. We are the managers of a field, and we need to operate as such. So we're always apprehensive when we get groups that come out, and we're just like, man, how is this going to influence the younger player base? And I think over the past year, especially, just seeing teams such as yourselves and the Death Eaters, Warfighters start to grow up and develop camaraderie and rivalry, it's something that I personally realize that I've missed over the years, because there was a lull between 2015, 2020, I won't even want to say, where a lot of people were just getting older, graduating, moving on to college, you name it, and the teams just kind of withered away, disintegrated, and we just missed that. Like, it used to be Opfor, Wolfpack, Stargate. They were a hilarious team, loved them. Ghost Team. Like, we had a lot of big teams, and while the player base was not as large as it is now, where we can have upwards of 60 to 100 people on a given weekend, we may have had 40, but you had 4 teams of 10 that were just close and good. And I think that's something that's coming back, and I missed it dearly. And I love that it's coming back, and I love that Omar pushes for it and tries to push people towards teams.
Perfect. What is something that you would like to see less of in the local airsoft community?
Poor mindset. I think this goes back to the lazy coworker analogy. When you come to the field and you show up with the mentality of, I just want to be a body here, regardless of what the game is, I think it's a detriment to the people that are spending their hard-earned time and money there to have fun with their friends. It's one of those things where it's like, me personally, I know when I wake up, I'm on the wrong side of the bed. I know it might be a bad day. if I'm going to the field and it turns out that it is such a case where I'm having a bad day, I remove myself from the situation so as not to take away from somebody else's experience. So poor mindset, it would be something to see a lot less of. There's some days where it's just like, this isn't happening. Maybe I shouldn't go out there and take away from somebody else's experience where they're paying to be there.
Perfect. Good point. Last two, man. Last two. What do you hope to see in Airsoft in the next 5 years?
The growth and explosion of teams. And hopefully that Harris is still growing and expanding. I think with the help of videos such as this and more teams coming out, getting bigger, badder meaning good, I think that brings youth to the field, and not necessarily in terms of being old. I think that rejuvenates the field, especially when we have such a diverse range of ages from 13? What's the oldest we can play? 13 to 60-something. That wisdom, knowledge, and youth brings new equations to the field and helps us expand in ways that we would like to, whether it be new structures, new things at the field, new events, new games, new teams. I would like to see growth of teams, growth of the player base, while still maintaining that close-knit relationship that we have at our field.
What advice would you give to a new player?
Find somebody that looks old and go under their wing. Now, find a person to play with. Nothing's more lonely than being by yourself. It's good to do it for a while, and then you can search who you are as a player and a person, but nothing makes a sport more fun than playing with somebody. And eventually, hopefully, that molds you as a person and a player and grows you to the point where you're like, I want to take on the challenge of working with a group of people on a team. And maybe that changes over the years and you go from team to team to team, which is a good thing. People often frown upon changing teams, but just because you're on a team doesn't mean you can't play with other people. And playing with other people gives you a different perspective, different mindset, different philosophies. Like you learn how to adapt as an individual in life. It's like, okay, this person thinks differently, and that's okay, and that's good. And honestly, they might have a better thought process on how to do something at the field. And I think that is a very good thing. It's just to start doing it.
Well, man, thank you very much for sitting down for this and taking the time and taking the drive in the snow. Jared, thank you as well.
Love it.
Pretty fucking awesome, man.
It's your turn.